and welcome to Food Rebels. I'm your host, AJ Sharp, and this is the podcast that brings you brands, chefs, and live on-air tastings, a show that's dedicated to the more rebellious side of the food world, where we celebrate people who have challenged the status quo. Hello to our lovely listeners. It's me and producer Georgie.
Hello.
And we are here to taste some really exciting drinks in the studio today.
A drink-based episode today.
Georgie wants me to mention the survey online,
Yes,
so you know about it by now, but foodrebels.co.uk, there's a little survey, so if you can fill that out, that'd be great. Yeah, so we've got some nice drinks in the studio today. What are you feeling about different kind of cocktails and wine and stuff? Are you a big drinker, Georgie?
I find that I'm a more picky drinker. I drink less, but the stuff that I drink...
Drink less, drink better.
Definitely. And I think that's probably an age thing.
Yeah. I remember my mum once saying that you only have so many units of alcohol you can drink in your whole life, so be careful where you put them. And it took me years to go, do you know what? That might not actually be true. But maybe it is
Maybe it is true, though. Actually, I really like that.
Maybe you get to a point where you're like, you've literally only got a few left before your liver's going to give out on you. So you've got to be a bit more careful.
I used a lot in my 20s, so I feel like...
Yeah, on really revolting stuff.
Well, that's the thing, isn't it? So now it's just like, no, I want stuff. If I'm going to drink stuff, I really want it to be nice.
Yeah, I agree with you. Good quality.
Good quality.
Yeah, tastes good. Brilliant. Well, today in the studio, we have two experts. We have Xavier Craine from Mixtons. Hey, Zav.
Hi.
Tell us a little bit about Mixtons.
So Mixtons is a pre-made cocktail company, but with a big differentiator in that we take classic cocktails and add unique twists to them. I suppose our hypothesis is that all RTD cocktails replicate the same 5 or 6 flavors, the passion martini, margarita, espresso, etc. And fundamentally, we think it's all quite boring. So we wanted to come along and spice up the market a little bit.
Excellent. That sounds really cool. And we've also got Tom Bell from DrinkWell. Hello, Tom.
Hello, everyone.
Tell us a little bit about DrinkWell.
So DrinkWell has been going for over 12 years, and we are a online marketplace for the better for you alcohol category. So we have loads of wines, beers and spirits that you can choose from online, delivered to your home. And then more recently, we've developed a beverage division, which basically learns everything that we've sold, learns about everything that we've sold. And then we funnel all that information and create products ourselves that perfectly tick the box for what our consumers want.
Wow. Okay, cool. Looking forward to hearing a bit more about that. That sounds amazing. First, Mixtons, we've poured out a couple of drinks here, and the aroma here in the studio is so fruity and lovely, isn't it?
Delicious.
So tell us a bit more about it. So you've been going for 3 years, did you say?
Yeah, just over 3 years. And it was very much a lockdown baby to begin with. So myself and my two co-founders, Ranj and Sim, we all had businesses prior that got affected by COVID. They were in the event space and I was in the travel space. And it was actually during COVID that we came together as a friendship group. There were about 10 of us. And every Thursday at 6:30, we would jump onto a Zoom call. And through the medium alcohol tasting, we would socialize. It was the only way that we would actually get together.
Cool.
So we started with gin week, wine week, rum week,
that.
got to cocktail week on week 4. And instead of making fresh cocktails on a Zoom call, which would have been a faff and potentially dangerous for laptops, we went and bought all the RTDs that we could possibly find in the supermarkets. And
what is an RTD?
so it's a ready to drink.
Okay.
So anything in a can technically counts as an RTD. But we focused on cocktails for this week.
Yeah.
And between us, we had about 25 different variations of cocktails from different supermarkets, different retailers. And we did a bit of a show and tell at the start of the call. We were like, this is what we got from here and there. And we realized by the 25th cocktail that we'd only said 5 flavors. And there was something that really didn't sit right about us. But we realized that cocktails, if you think about them holistically in culture and society, they're so much more than a liquid. You drink beer or wine at different points in the day, whether you're getting home from work by yourself and you're stressed or you're catching up with friends. But cocktails are exclusively used in moments of celebration and moments of joy. And part of what makes them special is when you're ordering a cocktail you never tried before on a menu and it lands in front of you, the moment of turning to your friends and going, holy, this is amazing. And it's that moment that makes a cocktail special. It's not trying your 30th porn star martini and comparing it to every other one. It's the moment of actually social enablement that it gives you and social currency. So we then looked at the market and we said, well, it doesn't exist in RTDs and ready to drinks. So we wanted to offer that essentially to consumers to have that, what we now call the Mixtons moment, anywhere they want, whether it's on a train, in a park, having a picnic.
So the moment is turning to your friend and going, this is delicious.
Exactly. And being able to share in that joy of discovery because I suppose that the philosophy of the brand is that life's best moments are the ones that you least expect. It's not New Year's Eve that's the best night of the year. It's very often the random Tuesday after work where you go for one drink and you end up in Pop World at 3 a.m. Typically, that's kind of
And regret it all the way through till Friday.
But it's the ones that you talk about.
Yeah.
And for us, it's those moments that you really remember that weren't expected. And actually, the same applies for what you eat and what you drink.
Oh, I love that. That's really cool.
And where did the name Mixtons come from?
The name was a fairly convoluted story, if you like. So we originally launched under the brand name of Knocktails when we were just an online e-commerce business during COVID. And about 6 months in, we realized the opportunity and we realized that it didn't sit quite right. So we were exploring different naming options. And what happened is during that process, we actually had a cease and desist letter from Europe's largest IPO law firm land on our plate and say that they had an American client, huge conglomerate, who had trademarked the name 4 years and 9 months ago. Now, anyone that knows anything about trademarks knows that there's a 5-year limit.
Wow.
So we're like, oh gosh, what do we do?
So were they actually producing under that name? Or?
No, but magically a website
I
appeared
see.
that same week. So what happened is it was 2 weeks, or we're going to close your business, essentially. We spent 2 weeks every single day searching for a name. Every day, 3 or 4 hours on Zoom, doing big mind maps, nothing came. And it wasn't until the evening before the 2-week period ended where I was scanning through the letter one final time to see if there's any way we could get out of it. And I read the name of the managing partner was Mr. Pixton.
Excellent.
And so as a slight finger up to him, we decided to go with the name Mixtons.
That's great.
That's
great.
amazing. So what were you producing before? Because it was cocktails, wasn't it? But not in this.
Exactly. So we were
format.
always producing cocktails, but at the time we had a range of classic cocktails and half our range was our own creations from the guy's previous events business. In about 2 years of operating under that brand, we actually made about 400,000 cocktails, and all of that learning and absorption that we had from the market came to the point where we realized that actually consumers don't want classic cocktails. They're kind of done with it, and there's a very small portion of the market that's looking for the perfect serve. There's a huge category of consumer that's looking for innovation in what, if you think about it, should be the most innovative RTD category of all, the cocktail. But if you look at other RTD categories, energy drinks, if you look at coffee, if you look at CBD, there's so much flavor innovation happening, but none happening in cocktails. So
really
that was really the
funny,
the
isn't
learning
it?
we had.
Because the word cocktail means a mixture of different things. But you're right, we just put the same mixtures together a lot of the time.
Exactly. And from a brand perspective, it allows us to actually create characters like the spicy melons, which is our twist on a margarita with is tequila, lime, watermelon, and chili. That's our drink. It's not somebody else's that we're just copying. It's the Mixtons character, essentially.
I love it. So can we taste some of these?
Of course, yeah.
So where do you suggest we start?
So we're going to start with the Dragon Mojo, which is our twist on a mojito.
This one?
So that it's like a mojito base with kiwi and dragon fruit added to it. So what you should get is like the sweetness of the mojito, but with this kind of fruity overtone that sits over the top of it, and then a really nice punchy rum coming from the 8% of booze that's in there.
And I'm really loving the packaging you've got going as well. It's like
That's nice.
turquoisey. Well, they're all different colours, but this one is a turquoise with a pink stripe all the way through it. It is so nice. It's lovely.
Thank you. And we really want to represent the twist in a visual medium, which is why obviously there is a twist on the can, because everything that the brand lives and breathes around is that concept.
So this is a Dragon Mojo.
Correct.
That's what you call it.
Have you had dragon fruit?
We did have somebody on the show from Soul Fruit who had dragon
Dried.
fruit crisps. Do you remember those? They were absolutely delicious. And this does taste similar.
Have you ever eaten fresh
No,
dragon fruit?
never. Have you?
Yeah, I have, like abroad, but not so recently that I'd actually know what it tasted like, if you know what I mean.
Well, it's in the same family as kiwi, which is why we've paired them
Oh,
together.
is that right?
But it's
Okay.
essentially, if you imagine like a slightly redder, fruitier
It
version of
looks
a kiwi.
beautiful. They are so beautiful when you
They are
see
stunning.
them. They look, and then I love the white flesh that's inside. I see them in the supermarket, but I never really think to pick one up. But it's got a
That's
real,
really nice.
yeah,
That's
really
nice. And
different.
actually quite sessionable at 8%. Like it's not going to blow your head off.
Well, this is the other thing. If you look at the RTD market, you've got two really clear sides. One is this kind of what I call pretentious made in Chelsea Soho House vibe, where now it's all one and done at 13 to 15% ABV, you have one and it's too much. Or you've got the other side, which is what I then call the only way is Essex, cheap and cheerful, like Towers of Pornstar Martini at Turtle Bay sort of vibe, that are all 3 and 4%. And it's not enough booze to really get you going. So we found through research that 8% was the perfect mark for the consumer.
It's still quite high, 8%, isn't it? If you're comparing it with a beer or something that you might buy as an RTD, as it were, it's punchier than a beer or a glass of wine.
Correct. But that's why it's then 200 ml as opposed to 250 or 330 to account for the fact that it's slightly punchier, but it's also not going to blow your head off sort of thing.
So if you were drinking this on a train, obviously you'd drink it straight from the can. But if you had it at home, would you add it to ice, or like how would you serve it?
Absolutely not. So our whole mission, if you like, is to be anti-pretentious traditional.
Okay.
And in our opinion, an RTD is not an RTD if you have to pour it into a glass over ice.
Okay.
And fundamentally, we know that there are players that say that you have to do that with your cans, but then why not just make a fresh cocktail?
Right.
And for us, it doesn't sit right that you're kind of selling the RTD to a consumer and then asking them to have to do something with it.
Okay.
So for us, if you're having it at home for a party, we'd still love for you to have it out the can because that's how it's built and designed to be consumed.
Okay, interesting.
Interesting.
I agree.
So this next one in a pink and orange can called Guilty Pleasure.
Guilty Passion.
Oh, Guilty Passion. Even better.
So
Guilty
that's
Passion.
our twist on what you'd call a passion fruit martini or a pornstar martini. So that has mango and lychee added to it. So you'll get like a tropical note and then you'll get a really nice kind of light and floral lychee note coming through the overtone.
Oh, that's super drinkable.
Very drinkable.
I was going to say that's going to slip down very quickly.
And the aroma on the nose is lovely, and it
Yeah.
does translate to the palate, which
Exactly.
often when you get a very sweet, fruity aroma, it doesn't always translate, does it? What did you think of this?
That's breakfast for me. That is so nice. That is so nice.
That's vodka based.
Yeah.
Correct.
They're all different.
So, and that's the thing. So each and every single one is designed around a different spirit.
Okay.
So you've got rum, tequila, vodka, and gin, of course. And fundamentally, we've designed them knowing that not everyone's going to love each and every one.
Yeah.
And that's the unique thing about cocktails is that someone might love an espresso martini and someone might hate it. And we designed our range with that in mind, that they're going to appeal to different demographics of drinker and different types of people. And this you'll probably get from the next one. So coming up is the Forbidden Zest, which is our twist on like an Aperol. So
Okay.
if you imagine a more consumable version of a Negroni, essentially, it's got gin, blood orange, pink grapefruit, and yuzu.
Oh, that's much more like bitter taste to it, isn't it? Like a Aperol and Negroni and that kind of stuff.
Exactly. So it's your more sophisticated
Yeah,
palate.
you're taking away the sweetness and
Is that the yuzu that's bringing in that real citrusy kind of kick on the...
So it's the pink grapefruit and the yuzu
yeah.
combo, because the pink grapefruit gives a little bit of kind of
Yeah, you can really
bitterness,
get that.
and we still use a lot of kind of traditional Negroni ingredients,
Yeah.
but we've just dialed them down a little bit.
Oh, it's lovely. That's quite grown up, isn't it? Compared to the first two, which are much sweeter, much more easy drinking. That one, I really like it. I like the drying effect you get in the mouth afterwards.
I
Exactly.
really like the blood orange in that. That's
Yeah.
a really lovely flavour.
No, we're really proud of that one. And then we're going to finish on my personal favourite and the kind of cult classic of Mixtons already, which is called the Spicy Melons. So this is our twist on the margarita. And there's been a huge movement in the last few years towards kind of picantes. We just found them a little bit boring and mundane, and everyone's trying to do the same thing and not do them very well. So this has added, it's a margarita with added watermelon and chili.
I was going to say that
Chili.
chili kick is
It's absolutely delicious. I
It's
love
really
the
nice.
chili kick.
really nice.
Yeah, that's nice. That is really good.
And the heat's not overwhelming, but it's also not noticeable, if that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
It warms the mouth,
Yeah, it does.
and it's made with a secret ingredient that we can't explicitly share, but it was very difficult to pin this down in RTD.
It's lovely, that one. I like the way the chili comes in and it fills your mouth, but you also feel it at the back of the throat, and there's something quite warming but also palate cleansing about it.
Yeah.
You get a bit of longevity from that. Like you don't, if everything else is refreshing, that just sits with you for a long
Stays
time,
with you.
just because you've got that warmth out of it, and actually the taste is still there.
Exactly.
That's really, really good.
And we love it because it's almost a clash of sweet and heat,
Yeah.
which isn't a very typical combination. And when you're drinking a picante, it's just the sour and the heat. But this brings in that really nice kind of sweetness from the watermelon at the beginning, which that's why I love it.
And so where can you buy your cocktails?
So we've just launched into WH Smith's 2 weeks ago.
Amazing.
across all major travel sites around the UK. So we're listed in about 50 retail stores there. We're going to be launching, by the time this comes out, we're actually launching to Whole Foods this week.
Amazing.
So across their sites around London. We're on Amazon, we've got our own e-commerce, and naturally we're doing everything that we can to increase distribution as much as possible. And we've got a load of on-trade, so we're listed at the Indigo Bars at the O2, for example. And in terms of our presence, our business model, if you like, is all revolves around live events. So we've actually got the largest live presence of any RTD brand in the UK.
That's
This summer we're doing
awesome.
about 40 festivals.
Wow.
Because it's so easy. Do you know what I mean? Like you don't need anything else. You just have the can and that's it.
Exactly.
And what does it retail at?
So they retail anywhere from kind of £3.75 to the £4 range is our traditional RRP. But if you're going at WH Smith's, they're $4.99 because naturally it's a premium proposition there.
Love it. Really, really interesting.
Yeah, agree.
Different flavours. Oh, Georgie's just reminded me we've got Food Rebels 20 off your website, haven't we? What's your
Indeed.
website?
So it's mixtons.com.
Mixtons.com. And if you put in Food Rebels 20, you will get 20% off on
Correct.
the website. Absolutely fantastic. So good.
Thank you.
Let's talk about DrinkWell.
Let's do it.
You're an online retailer first. That was the first business.
Yeah, so it is still predominantly the business as it stands. So, I started this business over 12 years ago. I was mad into sports, played loads of different sports, but predominantly into rugby. And with rugby, as we know, the drinking culture and the drinking culture going with rugby is fantastic and it brings together the club, but obviously it sits there as a detriment to that performance point.
Yeah.
So we were training all week, we would play in the week, we'd play on a Saturday, and each time we were drinking after each one of those occasions. And therefore you're always in that cycle of let's perform, let's train, let's get better. Unfortunately, we're now on the booze and now that's going to put me back a little bit. I was just determined that there had to be a better alternative. And I'm not in the beverage industry. I did sports science at university, so I just came from that slight background. I was working in the medical industry at the time. And I just did some research after research after research. I just spent long nights trying to figure out where these products existed because I was almost certain there had to be. Somebody had to have had that decision, that idea before me. And it is in America and it's in Australia in a huge way. They are like multi-billion-dollar markets individually.
This is low alcohol.
So this is not low alcohol. This is mostly slightly lighter in alcohol, sometimes not at all, but really between that sort of 10 and 15% lighter in alcohol naturally.
Right.
And then they are lower carb, low sugar, lower calorie. Sometimes they're vegan, they're organic, they're sustainable. All those sort of better for you attributes didn't have to come at the detriment of alcohol. And I was certain that they were out there. I found them. They're in America, they're in Australia. They just weren't in the UK and Europe. It kind of goes hand in hand with their culture had shifted towards that better for you movement that, the beverage industry in the UK is probably one of the oldest and most archaic beverage industries in the world. And it's so slow to change that they've not picked up on these trends, on that consumer habit. So, this is over 10 years ago and I'd seen that it was over in America. I had assumed, having had hundreds of conversations, I'm the 1,000 phone call guy. So I'll just call until I've got the right answer. It was, yes, that trend will come, but it's going to take some time. At that point, I literally just embarked on my goal for, my career and my professionalism is to bring that category to the UK, make the product that I'm desperate for available to the rest of the consumers in the UK. I asked everybody that I could get my hands on, if you had this alternative, would you choose it? Once I'd figured out how to get some in the UK, long story short, I'm sat in my back bedroom in between jobs, Googling, and I saved up a bit of cash and ordered some products from Canada. So we got over Moosehead Light, which is the first beer brand we ever did. And I saved up a bit of money, had no idea how to get it in the UK. 9 weeks later, I'm on my driveway washing the car and a TNT truck turns up and 2 pallets pull out the back.
Wow.
I completely forgot this was happening. So I literally had to put a few hundred cases of beer into my little tiny poxy little garage and figure out how to sell them. And in 2 weeks, it was all gone. So I went down to every rugby club I've played for and against and every bar that I've ever drank in, which was plenty, and we sold out. I'd completely forgot. It took me 9 weeks to get any more.
Oh, no.
So kind of long story short, this is sort of a 4 or 5 year learning cycle of working a couple of jobs, going down to the warehouse at 5 a.m, picking and packing boxes that we sold online, dispatching those to the local post office when they opened, go to work, come back, do the same thing. And it was months and months and months of just figuring it out. And this was literally just day by day trying to understand how we do stuff. And we've got bigger and we've got better and we've got so much stronger as a business. And over the last few years in particular, we've exploded across the UK. So we've got over 125,000 customers that have come through DrinkWell. They've discovered products that they didn't know existed before. They've been educated about how these products could exist and how they're made. And it's not by hocus pocus. It's not by chemicals and problems. We find products that are naturally made. Our blueprint is if they are naturally made and naturally low in alcohol and they're made in a process that removes or reduces the sugars, carbs and calories, they can be part of our portfolio. What we've basically done with DrinkWell is go through all this learning and selling millions of bottles of wine, cases of beer, bottles of spirits, and then we've developed a beverage division. And over the last 3 years, it's been my goal as a business is to have a beverage division that has filtered down all the data of every product that we've ever sold. Because it's online, we have that data, and then we've filtered it into a funnel that gives us the perfect product that our customer wants. And then we've gone away and created our wine brand, which is called Traces.
You basically found the hole in your portfolio and like you're creating now a product for it.
It's almost like the Holy Grail. It's everything we've ever sold. Why, what varietal, what strength, what region, what style, what palette, what flavor, everything. And then create a product. Let's get that blueprint. Let's send it out to the market. Let's figure out what winemaker can do that. And let's get it produced. So we've created a brand called Traces. Traces stands for a number of things, but the A, C and S in Traces stands for alcohol, calories and sugar and sustainability, doubled up on the S. Traces is the fact also that it leaves no trace on the earth, in that it's a fully sustainable wine brand as well. So the alcohol is 11%. 10.5 was really the cutoff, because when you go down there, you start to get a poorer palate and a poorer mouthfeel, and actually you need sugar to replace some of that mouthfeel, and that's what you tend to see a lot in the market at the moment, is big brands ticking boxes that they have to do a lighter alcohol product, and they sacrifice adding loads of sugar to those products to give it some mouthfeel. It's 78 calories, so the C for calories is 78, and we're completely sugar-free, fermented out to dryness, and it's a sustainable wine brand. So it's a HVE certified winery. It goes in an eco bottle. It's naked neck with a natural cork, so it's 100% recyclable. So we're ticking a lot of those boxes that our consumers were so desperate for, but they were getting it from 3 or 4 different wines, and we've just tried to compile it all into one.
That's amazing. Where is it made?
We work with an incredible winery in the south of France. Guillaume is our head winemaker, has worked for a number of years with us. So I've been working on this for sort of 4.5 years of trying to create this product. And it took us a couple of vintages to get it right. And the last 3 vintages have been absolutely incredible. And on the last 2 in particular, we've got multiple IWC and IWSC awards.
Wow.
Which is great.
So that's the International Wine and Spirit Challenge, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. For a mid-strength wine that's lighter in calories, completely sugar-free, it's one of the first brands to ever been able to do that and actually create a product that's good enough to stand up on a blind tasting against incredible wines from all over the world with, master of wine judges that can sit there on a blind tasting and say, this is actually a half decent wine. Yeah. Negating the fact of everything else and why we want it to be what it is with calories and sugars and better for the consumer. Negate that. It's a good wine.
So the white, is that a particular type of grape?
The white is 100% Sauvignon Blanc. The rosé is 100% Grenache. And the red is 100% Cinsault. So not a common grape that you'd normally
get. I haven't heard of Cinsault.
You normally eat Pinot Noir and Shiraz and Merlot, etc. But a Cinsault is a really common grape used in a lot of red wines, especially from France. You just don't hear it a lot because it tends to be blended into other varieties. And that tends to be because consumers, know a bit more about a Merlot, so they'll probably pick up a Merlot. Cinsault is a wonderful product because it's one of the only red grapes that will run that precoce, that early ripening process, and it will still give you a really good, fruity, palatable product when you completely ferment it out to dryness.
Incredible. I've never heard of this term, fermented out to dryness. So there's different points where you would stop the fermentation. Is that the issue? And then so in winemaking in general, alcohol volumes in wine have just been going up for years, for decades. Now you're on the averages on some regions, they're like 14, 15%. And it's been a problem for the wine industry in total of trying to reduce the total alcohol in those wines. What they're having to do in most places, or almost this tick box attitude that we have in the wine industry, is we need something that's lighter, so let's just mechanically de-alcoholize that wine. And when you de-alcoholize, you just strip everything out of that wine that's natural, and that's like the quality and the palate and the berries or any aromas that you get through, it's gone. Because we start with less sugar, we just work with quite active yeasts that then completely ferment every ounce of sugar that's left in that grape out to alcohol. So because we're starting with less, we need to really work hard on that yeast to keep it active, and we
do things in the winemaking process that improves that yeast activity and improves that fermentation. So when it comes to the end of that winemaking process, there is nothing else to convert. All the aromas are in there. It's not been filtered. It's a genuine natural winemaking process, and the product that you get at the end of it hasn't been touched at all.
It's a little bit. I heard your guys' episode on ultra processed foods, and it's the same. As soon as you remove anything from something that's natural and then try and replicate the flavor through something unnatural, it's the same within the RTD space. A lot of people will use neutral grain spirit, which is like the cheapest version of spirit that you can get. It comes at 96% proof. Then you add some water in with it. That's how a lot of the brands that are £1.50, £2 on the shelves can be competitive there. And what they do is then they add rum flavorings. They add gin flavorings. They add vodka flavorings. It's not actually the spirit. And it'll be the same with wine. Exactly if you've got 3 to 5% wines that taste like they're alcoholic, it's definitely not natural.
And that's what we see. So there's currently products. So in this, again, kind of a tick box attitude from some of the big wine house, brand houses that are out there, is that they see a trend, they see some data coming on the horizon. They're not brand builders. They'll buy a brand and they'll run it. Otherwise, they just very quickly create something that they quite often fail. And what they've done, a lot of these brand houses has taken a wine that they've already got, taken a brand or a label that they've already got, create a sister version of it, de-alcoholize the wines, tick a box at 7, 8, 9%.
Yeah.
So they can see that there's a trend for consumers wanting slightly lighter wines or slightly lighter calories. So
they don't want to change their process.
They don't want to change the processes. So they do it the cheapest, the easiest, and the quickest way to get a product on shelf, to tick a box. And that's what's happening. But some of those wines that are on those shelves, a couple of the 8% wines that are on some of the supermarket shelves that try to tick this box have 20 to 25 grams of sugar in it per bottle. That is a huge increase of sugar when consumers are perceived to be having a lighter, better for you alternative. They're actually reducing their alcohol intake slightly, but massively increasing their sugar.
It's like the same with the yogurt, isn't it?
Fat-free
yogurt, you take out the fat and then you pump it full of sugar.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's not unheard of across the consumer sector.
Yeah.
But what's interesting, on every single consumer sector that there is, biscuits, crisps, yogurt, ready meals, anything, there are better for you alternatives, and some are genuinely better and some aren't. But in the alcohol industry, there really isn't. There is either full strength, mainstream and craft, or there is no and low. And
not anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
Now.
Thank you. Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And you've got a lovely discount code for us as well. Rebel20, which will get you 20% off everything online from drinkwelluk.com.
Correct.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Is that the easiest way to buy Traces?
Yeah, so Traces is on there. It's our flagship brand that we created ourselves, but there are over 100 different wines. There are 25 different beers. There are tons of different spirits. You can go on, you can mix and match. You don't have to subscribe. You don't have to do anything. You can buy it once and never buy it again if you really don't want. But we believe that once you've tried it and once you actually taste, the proof is in the pudding for this, we think you will come back time and time again. And data shows that if you find something that fits in with your lifestyle, that still delivers the quality that you expect to have and expect to enjoy, because wine and beer and spirits is about an enjoyment occasion.
Definitely.
You still get that by ticking the boxes for your lifestyle. That's the bit that proves out.
Thank you so much for explaining that, Tom. That was really cool. And thanks, Zav. I love tasting all of your Mixtons cocktails. They're really good.
Of course, I'll leave some for you in the fridge.
Thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for listening. And please do make sure that you interact with us. Get to the website and fill out Georgie's survey, or send us a DM on Instagram at food_rebels_. Let us know what you think of the show. You've been listening to Food Rebels, which is available on radio stations around the UK. You can also listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify and Audible. So please remember to subscribe and rate us with 5 stars. Thanks for joining. Make sure you taste the rebellion.